Hello, my name is Myra. Welcome to another video. So today I wanted to edit my 24 books in 2024 challenge. This is actually a pretty popular challenge, I think, in the book community. I'm not 100% sure, but it came in my reading journal. And so at the beginning of the year in January, I went through some books that I had heard about and kind of wrote them in here as like books that I wanted to make sure that I read this year. I figured, you know what? There's only a few months left in the year. Do I really still want to read these books, or what books can I kind of like check out and eliminate and substitute for other books? So I am gonna go one by one. I'm not gonna like talk about the books in depth, but I will give a little bit of information as far as like my knowledge goes with these books. So the first one that I have on here is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I still very much want to read this book. I actually already started this book, so I will be reading that one. I do know that this has to do with like an apartment and it's magical. Her grandma or aunt left her this apartment, and it turns out that she meets this man that's there, but they're like 7 years apart, as in he's 7 years in the past and she's in the future, something like that. So that's all I really know about it, but it has really great reviews. I started it, I really like it already, but that one is still gonna stay on my list. Number 2, I have Argyle, which I don't know if you guys had heard about it or saw the movie, but this is supposed to be about an author who writes like spy novels, and then she ends up getting dragged into like this whole thing where people are like, how did you know this was gonna happen? And she's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just an author. And so there's like this whole thing that she gets dragged into. She finds out spies really do exist, and her whole work is supposed to be fiction. So it's this whole thing. But at the time when I wrote it, the movie hadn't come out yet, and there was rumors saying that maybe Taylor Swift wrote the book. It was a pen name. I don't know. It was this whole thing. Whether or not it's true, I have no idea. I don't think it is. But I had that book on here as one that I want to read, and to be honest, I don't really know that I want to read the book. I watched the movie, it was enjoyable, but I don't know that I really want to read the book. So instead, as my number 2, I'm gonna replace that with the Throne of Glass series. I started that in January, and I am stuck right now in the tandem read and then Kingdom of Ash. So it's the last 3 books in the series. If I don't finish them in August, I'm gonna have to try to finish them in September, but that's what's going as my number 2. Number 3, I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night. All I know about this one is that it's fantasy, and I think there's vampires involved. I'm not 100% sure, but people have talked really highly about this book, so I'm gonna try it out. Number 4, I have Becoming by Michelle Obama. I actually was listening to this book. It's a book about her life, her childhood, and I got to like the middle of it and I have not finished it, but I still want to. She's actually someone that like just learning about her childhood and like where she came from and her family and all this stuff, it was really interesting to me. So I definitely still want to finish that book. So I'm gonna leave that as my number 4 for now. Number 5, I have Mile High, and this is a series by Liz Tomford. Nothing but great things in this whole series. I think she has a book that just came out, which I don't know if it's the last book in the series or not. I want to say it's book 4. Don't quote me on that, but I do know it's sports romance. So I definitely want to read it. Number 6, I have Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and I am going to be reading that book, so because of that, I am actually going to remove it from here and put When the Moon Hatched. This is a fantasy romance that I have heard literally just great things about it. I don't know if it's fae, if it's, I don't really know what the system is. I have seen the book, it's a chunker, and actually, I'm not proud to admit this, but I did order a special edition book, even though I haven't read it. I know, don't come for me, but I heard really great things. So I'm really hoping, because I was like, what if I end up loving this book and then I missed out on my opportunity to get the special edition, and I got it. I know, but also the cover, it looks like such a beautiful book. So that's what I'm putting there as my number 6, since I am going to be reading Bride this week, probably. So eliminating that one. Number 7, I had Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, but that one I'm pretty far into as well. Like, I started it already, so I'm eliminating that one too, and I'm gonna go ahead and put How Does It Feel, what's her name? I know it starts with a J, I think. I have heard really great things about this book, and people have said like you are not going to really understand what's going on, like it's this whole thing. I think the third book comes out until sometime next year, so I was told to hold off on it. But honestly, I'll probably I'll be reading these for sure before the year ends. Like, I'm so curious about this book. Basically, it's supposed to be about this woman who becomes obsessed with like fairies because she thinks she sees a fairy or something like that. And while she's doing some research on like moths or something, so she's looking for this mushroom that they eat, goes through like this portal in accident, and she's in like this fae world. And it's supposed to be like pretty dark, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I heard it's so good. So I'll definitely be reading it. As my number 8, I have Divine Rivals, and I did read that in January, and it was a 5-star read. I loved it. So if you haven't read Divine Rivals, definitely recommend it. Number 9, I have Butcher and Blackbird. All I know is that it's a serial killer romance. Like, I think both of them are serial killers. Book 2 came out already, so I definitely want to read book 1. I did hear book 1 was better than book 2. I still want to read it. So that's still going to stay as my number 8. Number 9, I have Manacled, and this is a fan fiction book, and it has to do with like not Harry Potter, but like Hermione. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but it has to do with her and Draco. It's like fanfic. I have heard about this book like all of last year. Like, people were like, oh my god, it's so good. People still rave about it this year, so I definitely want to read it, but it is like 1,000 pages, so I'm like, oh. But I have it downloaded. I will read it on like ebook, but I'm gonna leave that as number 10. Number 11, I had Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Little did I know I was gonna fall in love with this whole series, so I've already read it. If you haven't, read it. It is a high school romance, but it's set in 2006 in Ireland, before social media, you know, just back in the day. So really recommend it. It's so good. Very emotional. Look up triggers, so just do that. Number 12, I have this book called The Breakup Tour, and people were saying it was like Taylor Swift quoted. I still want to read it, but I don't know that it's like in a must read for this year. I might change my mind. So for now, as number 12, I'm going to go ahead and put Hawk by Jessie Hall. I've heard about this book a lot, so I'm replacing that with Hawk because Hawk has been on my TBR for way too long. Number 13, I have The Deal, and that one is a hockey romance, and it's college. I do have the first book because my sister-in-law actually read it, and she was like, you need to read it, you're gonna like it. I started it, I put it in pause to read other books, and now it's been like 3 months and I haven't picked it up, but I still want to, so I'm gonna leave that as number 13. As number 14, I have A Little Life, and I had heard about this book. I heard it's really dark, really emotional, and my sister-in-law actually gifted it to me, so I do want to read it, but I know that it's a very triggering book. So right now, mentally, I am just not in the space to read it. So I'm not even gonna try. And I did see one of the booktubers that I really enjoy watching, Tori from A Novel Life. She DNF'd this book, like she did not finish the book. So I don't know. I'm gonna attempt it maybe this year, depends on where my mental health is at. So I might kind of like start it and kind of see, but honestly, if I feel like no, then I'm just gonna remove it. So I'm leaving it there for now, but honestly, it's a maybe. As number 15, I had To Kill a Shadow, and to be honest, I don't remember what this book was about. So for now, because I don't really remember at all, I'm replacing that one with Sinners Anonymous by Sam Sketcher, I think that's her name. I also heard about this at the book signing that I went to, and I was told you need to read it. It is so good, so I'm going to just see. Number 16, I have From Blood and Ash. I bought this book probably almost a year ago now. Yeah, by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Have not ever read any books by her, but I know she puts on that convention or like that big book signing in, is it Washington DC? I have no idea. I think it's somewhere on the East Coast, don't quote me, but I do want to read her books. I know that she has like other series. I think they're like spin-offs, but I saw this thing the other day where it's like interconnected. I don't know. I own the book, so I definitely want to try it. So at some point, I'm going to try to pick it up. As number 17, I have There Are No Saints. I have the duet by Sophie Lark. I love Sophie Lark, and I'm actually going to meet her in October. So I'm going to be reading that duet, so I'm going to leave that there. Number 18, I have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I bought this book probably also a year ago. I haven't read it. I've heard mixed things about it, so I have it. So I left it here on my list, mainly because I have it. Because honestly, if I didn't have the book, I probably wouldn't attempt it. So we'll see. Number 19, I have Touched by Sin. Again, I don't remember what this book was, but I'm replacing it by Ice Planet Barbarians, like the rest of the series. This series, if you don't know, it's like an alien human series. It's very fast reads. There's like 20 books in the series. I want to say I'm like at book 9 now, but they're really fun. They're really good like refreshers and like reset buttons, especially if you read something really heavy. You can read this, or like if you've been reading like a lot of the same, like a lot of like mafia, a lot of small town, a lot of sports romance, whatever. It's like a nice like reset button, and then you can like jump into something else, if that makes sense. So I'm putting that as number 19. 20, I have House of Earth and Blood, which is the first Crescent City book. I definitely want to read it this year. I have the books. I have the 3 books, but I want to finish Throne of Glass before I pick up Crescent City. So I read ACOTAR last year, loved it. I still want to reread it. I'm like staring at it right now. I still want to reread it, but eventually I'll pick up House of Earth and Blood. Number 21, I have Heavenly Bodies. I still have it on here. I heard it's such a good fantasy romance book, or like series. I think it's a series too. Still on there. I'm still gonna leave it there. 22, I have Twilight. I want to reread it. I didn't know if I should remove it because technically I already read it, but I really want to reread it. Like I want to reread it and annotate it and do all that stuff. So we'll see. 23, I have Haunting Adeline. The amount of TikTok, I feel like I see at least a TikTok a week about this. I think this is the Stalker Romance one. If it's not, then I'm totally off. Or is this the demon one? Confusing it with like A Soul for Revenge, or I don't know. I might be confused, but I feel like I've heard so much about Haunting Adeline. This one also came up at the book signing. So yeah, I left it on here. I'm gonna read it. And then last but not least, number 24, I have The Priory of the Orange Tree. I've seen this book at Target, at Walmart, at Barnes & Noble. I've seen it everywhere. It is a chunker. I want to say it's like this freaking thick. But I heard it's pretty good. And I saw the reviews and it's pretty good. There's a second book that came out. So I left that there. But honestly, there's so many fantasy, or like there's so many series that I have on here that I'm like, realistically, how much am I going to get to? Because like just kind of thinking out loud here, I'm like, okay, September, but then I have a book signing I'm going to in October. So I need to try to read as many of those authors. So then that just counts October out. So really I would only have November, December. I'm going to prioritize finishing Throne of Glass. I need to finish that series because I started it in January and I was expecting to be done with it like back in March, and I just have not. So I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, that wraps up the 24 books that I have for 2024. Who knows if I'll end up editing it again, but for now, that's where we stand. I'm not gonna edit anymore. I think at the end of the year, it'll be fun to kind of see, okay, this is what I crossed off, this is what I replaced. Did I actually read the replacement, or did I just completely fail? We shall see. At the end of the day, this is all fun and games, so don't take it too seriously. But if there are any books on here that are also on your list, or that you have on your radar to read at some point this year, let me know, because I'm curious to see if our book tastes align. But thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.